pandemic. We pray for our president. We pray for our Senate. We pray for our Congress. We pray for all of our leaders. We pray for the leaders of all our small towns and cities all throughout America. We ask that you would bless us all with wisdom. Help us to be receptive in receiving of your word so that we may make the right decisions and in return, and in the end, bring your name all the glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
all indivisible.
As always, we begin our meetings with our mask in accordance with CDC guidelines. At this time, if you're 6 feet apart, you're welcome to remove your mask throughout the remainder of the meeting. Item number 4 is to hear remarks from visitors. I don't believe we have any. Is that correct? And then we have item number 5, which is boards and commissions. That's going to be Mr. Sims.
Yes. So Dawn's put into your packet under item 5.1, which I'm going to say is agenda item page 4, the list of all of the upcoming meetings. I'm not going to go through those in any great detail. I want to hop directly over to item 5.2, which is basically to say that you do have an airport board appointment to consider. We talked about that a little bit last time. We did get an additional application in. So if you flip through there, you can see that, again, we've got 2 vacancies, Shane Phillips and Brian Brown having moved off recently. And then you've got Andrew Jones, you've got Larry Gregarianus, and you've got Drew Wilkins. Those are the 3 that you saw last time for your consideration. And then you've got a 4th, Juanita Attaway. Juanita Attaway is added also to her application. You can see her resume in there as well, and you can kind of flip through and see what that's all about. So council, it's not an agenda item for you to vote on at this time. The summary is we've got 3 pilots, and we've got 1 pilot in training, and plenty for you to consider there for your nominations as you move forward. We do anticipate that later this month we'll have this be an action item for you.
Wonderful. Council, I would suggest, as I will, review those candidates, and then we'll move forward at the appropriate time. Item number 6 is new business. Item number 6.1 is discuss change order number 2 for Griffith Avenue improvements. This item agenda will be page 13 through 18 in our on your packet. Mr. Rogers, sorry. So let me tell you. So I'm trying to maneuver all of this technology over here. For some reason, I can't pull them up.
Have with me here. You see on the bottom left-hand corner of our screen this good-looking young man. Here's Daniel Huffines. He's with Freese and Nichols. Daniel's been the designer and been on the Griffith project from the very beginning of this, and I appreciate Daniel's help today. He's helped me put this together here, so I'm going to walk through it. I'm going to give Daniel a chance to add anything to it that he wants to, and then we're certainly happy to take questions. We've had 1 change order on Griffith to date, and that was to add 3rd Street and some storm sewer to 3rd Street. We're bringing to you tonight change order number 2, and there's 2 major things we want to do with change order number 2. Number 1, we need to increase the days on the project. And number 2, we've got a credit of $3,751.67. And the increase in the days are needed for a couple of reasons. When Jackson Construction started the project, the gas company had not cleared from the area and where they wanted to work. There were conflicts, and there were some there were some conflicts at the beginning of this. Jackson did a great job of trying to work around it, but it did delay them some. And then we also had a water main that continually ruptured on them, that disrupted their work at the beginning of the project. We kept up with those days. We worked on that as we went along, knowing that probably at the end of the project, near the end of the project, we would need to reward them for those days and give them extra time on this. So if you look at agenda page 14, that's the actual change order document that gets signed. And the action, when we bring this back to you in a week or so, Mayor, whenever it is to have the authorized city manager to sign this document. It will basically decrease the contract amount, $3,751.67. And then if you'll flip a couple more pages, you have a letter from Jackson Construction, which lays out what I just told you about days. And then on agenda page 16, there's a very good summary of the days, which I feel like is probably important to everybody concerned with the project. So if you'll go to agenda page 16, it lists the days in change order number 1. It added 18 days to the project. We're recommending in change order number 2 that we add 88 days to the project. That total will be 106 days added. And if you'll look at the dates below, the notice to proceed is listed there, the original substantial completion date, final completion dates, and then what was revised with change order number 1 when we did it, and the revised dates that we'll have with this here. So the revised substantial completion date is listed as October 11th, 2020, with final completion listed at November 25th, 2020. And so that's what this action will do. And we feel very confident at this point, with everything underway and the way we're going, that we'll have no problem meeting these dates, and we won't need to ask for anything else. I think they'll beat these dates substantially that are listed at the bottom of that table. So with that, I'm going to see if Daniel has anything. Daniel, do you have anything else you want to add to my discussion?
No, sir, not really. I think I reiterate that Jackson's been very proactive in trying to collapse the schedule, and I feel comfortable with, what we have in front of us to get this thing wrapped up.
So there hasn't been very much dead time on this project. They've been actively working on it, and these delays have caused the need for this change order generally. And then we have a small decrease in we have some additional items to add to the project, and we have some items to take out of the contract that weren't needed. And that's why we have a credit of $3,751.67. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions from any of the council.
So, Steve, I'm assuming that there's a penalty associated with coming in late on the project. Is that the reason why?
We have liquidated damages on every project.
Okay.
Daniel, do you have that dollar amount memorized?
Not offhand. It's likely $1,000 a day.
Right. We typically don't go above that. It used to be $500 a day, and then some people try to make it very punitive on high-profile projects. On this, we felt like that was probably reasonable, $1,000 a day. We feel like the contractors work with us. We don't want to charge them liquidated damages. We feel like their justification for this is the increased days are justified.
Okay.
By the contract.
No, you have to have them,
Yes, sir.
and it protects both parties, right? We want to make sure that they are doing and working hard every day that's available to them. But then we also realize and understand that there are things that are out of their control that we need to credit them for. So I don't have an issue. Does anybody have an issue with the schedule? No? Hey, Ronnie?
Not the schedule, I would just, my question would be in regards to, the funding for the project, and, so the credit that we have, is that, considering all the funding that was allocated for the project, or all the contingencies for this project, or is that?
No, ma'am. I mean, this is just to get us to this point today for what we know. When we get to the end of the project in about October sometime, there will the chances are there will probably be what's called a cleanup or final change order, which will probably increase the project. We're not sure right now what that's going to look like, but we feel fairly confident that it won't be very large. We're working in the framework of the CO that we issued about a year and a half ago for Rose Hill and Griffith together, and that's what this is being funded out of. And we feel very confident that we'll come in within the budget of that CO.
Do we know if, what are we projecting, if we're going to come in at a percentage or a dollar amount under?
I always hope to come in under. I just don't know. I don't think it's going to be very much, so I don't want to get real excited about it right now. When we started this off, I was afraid we were going to be over with the two projects, but Rose Hill came in a little less than we thought. So we still think we'll have some money left over in this, but it won't be a significant dollar amount in that CO. We won't know that for another 60 or 90 days. We'll report to you by the end of the calendar year what that is.
Okay. Steve, thank you very much. Also like to thank Daniel Huffines with Freeze and Nichols for being here today. Thank you for joining us and appreciate your hard work.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yep. So
Yes.
a little bit of housekeeping before we move on. We do have in the council chambers Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, District 3, Charles Whitaker, District 4, myself, Mayor, and then remotely we have Grady Simpson, Mayor Pro Tem District 2, and then Tim Royce will be joining us shortly, probably around 5:30 or so, from District 5. Item number 6.2 is discuss ordinance number 2840 on first reading. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, vacating and abandoning a public alleyway, the same being situated between lots 2A, 3, 6, and 7, Block 123, Western Addition, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas. Mr. Rogers.
Mayor, I'm gonna take you a little bit backwards on this item. If you'll go to agenda page 22, there's a petition on there from 3 of the 4 property owners that are affected by this alleyway, and they're listed there. This was brought to me by Santiago Aguilar. He is one of the property owners there. There's also Brenda Mendoza and Augustine Valderas, and they've all signed this. The 4th party that's a part of this is Southwestern Christian College, and Santiago has reached out to them and through their attorney, and so has Craig, trying to reach them. I see no reason why the college would not want to be a party of this. It just hasn't happened before. Tonight, if you'll flip to agenda page 23, there's a map that better explains what we're trying to do, or what they're requesting to be done. So if you look at the in the middle of this map here where it says block 123, there's some yellow dash lines that are running up and down the page there. And that's a 21-foot wide alleyway that was platted back in the early 1900s. And so with a lot of these things, there's no utilities in that. There's no water, sewer, or any other franchise utilities in that. And the property owners that are adjacent to it have asked for it to be closed, and they'd like to take that property into their lot so they can build on it. Santiago wants to build on the lot that's got the red 7 in it. That's the lot he wants to build a house on. I believe that Augustine Valderas has lots 2A and 2B, and he wants to widen that and build a house on that lot. This helps him to be compliant with and gives them more room for setbacks on what they want to build. The college owns lot number 3. So what this will do, this will split this alleyway down the middle, so each side will get 10.5 feet. And so the college will gain 10.5 feet. So even though they haven't signed on to this petition, that's what the request is. Staff supports this. Mr. Shumpert has drafted this ordinance for us to do this with, and it'll come back to you at a subsequent meeting for action. So with that, I'll answer any questions that anybody has at this point.
So the school hasn't objected to it, is that correct?
We haven't been able to get a hold of them.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't see why they would object to this. All they're gonna do is gain another
Okay,
10.5 feet into a lot that they presently own.
got it.
He'll have to, and I believe Santiago's intention is, once this is filed, is to replat this block so that that's reflected, so that the college really won't be a party to hardly any of this, even though they'll benefit from it, but that's still okay. We've tried to reach out to their legal, I believe Greg has.
Yes, I have, Mayor, and I got no response from them. But as Steve pointed out, if this goes through, they'll, not only from the alley closing,
Excuse me, Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grady Simpson, I'm having a challenge hearing anyone. It's kind of going in and out there.
I'm sorry. I'll speak up. Can you hear me now already?
Why don't you come up?
You may
to the
need to come
mic
up.
here, and I'm gonna-
Were you able to hear Steve? Okay, you just didn't hear, council.
That's correct. That's
Okay,
correct.
All right, we got it.
Yes, I attempted to reach out to the college and left several messages. I never got a response, but I agree with Steve. They shouldn't have any problem with this. They're gonna gain 10 feet with the closure. Plus, they're gonna benefit if Santiago replats the entire block. They'll benefit from the replatting as well. So they have not, and as I indicated in the ordinance, everyone has either agreed or has not otherwise objected, and the
Okay.
college has not otherwise objected.
So there's no negative consequences for
No,
the school?
no, sir.
Okay, that was my main concern and question. Okay, we're good there. Does anybody have any
Yes, I have
questions?
a question.
Yes,
Yes, I think I overheard a statement. I'm not quite sure where I heard it or not. They said someone tried to get in touch with anybody at Southwestern.
yes, that is correct.
Okay,
Council,
and that was no.
Mayor Pro Tem, this is Mike. I just want to try to clarify. Greg Schumpert had the job of contacting legal counsel for Southwestern Christian College. He's made several attempts to do that, and that's what he was just explaining. I apologize if the mic isn't picking him up. So the answer is yes, we did attempt to contact Southwestern Christian.
Okay, well, I have no problem with contacting. I got a very good relationship with Southwestern, and I can personally let them know to call Greg or get in touch with you, Mike, Mr. Sims.
Yes, sir.
If you would, have them call me if you would, Grady, and if they don't have legal counsel, I even tried to reach out to the president of the university, of the college, and got no response there either. I'd be happy to visit with him. But,
Okay.
And I think all they really need to know and understand is that they're going to benefit from this, and that they would gain an additional 10 feet on their lot. Plus, they'll benefit if the block is replatted. They'll have a fresh plat that they don't even have to participate in the cost for having had that done.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good, Mr. Shumpert. I'll talk with you more about it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can reach
Thank
my
you.
office
Thank you.
anytime.
thank you, Grady. Anyone else?
Yes, sir.
We're good.
Point of order, Mayor.
Yes, sir. What's your point of
First
order?
time in 8 years, someone couldn't hear Mr. Shumpert.
It is something you said.
Duly noted. Item number 6.3 is discuss resolution number 987, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Texas, approving amendment number 2 to the Tax Increment Finance Reinvestment Zone number 1, projected plan and finance plan. This is Mr. Sims.
So, Mayor and Council, this is a house cleaning effort by the board of your tax increment refinance district number 1. As you guys know, the board was started based on some planning work that was done. We had a little group together at the time. Steve Rogers was heavily involved in that. Larry Klein, who's a consultant out of Dallas that we relied on for many years, did an absolutely awesome job for us in a lot of different respects. Put together what we often brag is the largest tax increment finance district in a rural county in all of Texas. So it's got a good history, and it's been very productive for us. As you know, the highlight of the tax increment district is the new development down at the corner of 148 and Interstate 20. So as normal housekeeping goes, you look back at the plan that you created back in 2007, 2008, and you say, okay, how do we need to update this plan going forward? It's a 30-year tax increment finance district. And over the course of that 30 years, obviously will end in 2037, but we're through 13 or 12 years or so of the tax increment finance district now, and we felt like it was timely for us to get into that project plan and finance plan and make some edits and updates, and that's what they've done. The recommendation comes to you both from the Tax Increment Refinance Board as well as from the Kaufman County Commissioners Court. They also did a review of this same information, and they voted unanimously to approve this recommendation to you. So page 24 is just a map. We don't always show you a map of the TIF district. It's chopped up into 24 areas, and they were really designed because in a very large tax increment finance district, it's good to be able to keep track of your different financial projections in different areas. But we don't want to mislead anybody. Those districts within the TIF, the 24 zones there, they're not regulatory. They are simply housekeeping or divisions so that we could keep track of, okay, how much new development might come from that area and how much infrastructure might that area need. So that zone map helps direct and helps one understand what infrastructures are needed by different parts of the city. So if you go over to the next page, you can see what was in the original tax increment battle plan here. It says tract, and again, all those tracts, 1 through 26, are just the original tracts that were divided up. You've got a 4,000 acre tract, or TIF, we've divided into those different tracts. So those public improvements, you can take, for example, the Cinecola tract. The Cinecola tract is the one on the far west side of town. It's that triangle between Spur 557 and US 80. Folks recognize that as a place where there's the Union Pacific deliveries of aggregate, and so you kind of see that as you're going out on the edge of town. So the original battle plan, I'm just using that as an example on the Cinecola property there, was $6 million worth of infrastructure needs in that area. It shows roadways for $2 million, drainage for $500,000, landscaping signage for $1 million, TxDOT facilities for $2 million, water for $250,000, sewer for $250,000, all totaling up to $6 million. So each of the zones, the tracts, there was an analysis at the time that said, well, how much revenue could that tract possibly produce? And is there a match of infrastructure associated with that? So as you might imagine, a planning document that was created with estimates back in 2008, things have changed. And so I'll walk you through those changes and what's been recommended. The next page shows an amendment that was approved the project finance plan back in 2008. At the time, the tract called Risinger North, which is number 3 there, that's where we were doing our deal with Buc-ee's, and we made some edits and changes at that time, and you can see we also created that contingency line item. So the only stuff different that got voted on way back when in 2008 are shown in green on this public improvement changes here. You flip over to the next page, and you can see kind of a brown, sort of a yellow color here. It says Public Improvements Draft Amendment 2. This is a set of changes, and some of the highlights there are in yellow. Some of them are just in the table themselves. And the attempt here was to go through and look at, now that we know more, now that we've seen the pace of development over the years, what changes do we need to make? So you might look across here and say, okay, here's tract number 2. Tract number 2 used to have the name Market Center. Well, that's confusing, right? Because tract number 2 is actually the land where Crossroads is. So we changed that name to Crossroads, and obviously we've built roadways there, so we know what those cost structure was. So we've updated those numbers, and you can see that $17 million in infrastructure number associated with Zone 2. And you can go through here and see the rest of that. The Buc-ee's Market Center name change, it was just confusing. You kind of had to know local history to know what Risinger North was versus Risinger South. So we've changed that name there. We've made sure the numbers in there are correct. And then you can look down for the rest of this and you can see, well, okay, we've identified there's a handful of these areas where we don't think we really need, quote, roadways or drainage. We think we need a little bit of TxDOT money, or money for a TxDOT facility, I should say. You can see down here in these zones that are labeled 15, 16, and 17. That used to be fairly confusing to keep track of, but those are the zones that I would generally identify as being all the downtown zones. So if you look way back over here at that map, you can pick up by kind of staring at the top part of the map, the northern part of the map. You can see that there's a 16, it follows along one side of Moore. There's a 17 that follows along the other side of Moore, or of the railroad tracks, I should say. And then 15 is another zone that's right in that downtown area that we recently rezoned. So 16, 17, 15 are basically a set of jigsaw puzzle pieces that make up what we would just sort of traditionally call downtown. We've reworked those so that it shows up a little bit better and identifies, okay, what are the infrastructure needs really downtown? And this is where I now turn around to the policy point here, which is basically the idea of the TIF district board of directors was to say, okay, we've got certain things we know that we're not going to build, and one of those being improvements to the Kings Creek wastewater treatment plant. One of those being some of the infrastructure that we really ended up getting funded through the county bond program. We used to need to build FM 148 through the tax increment finance district. We're building that through a different arrangement with the Regional Transportation Council and with Kaufman County. So we've taken some things we know we weren't going to spend money on out, and we've inserted different money in here, and you can see there's identification now with what's called downtown plan, and you can see the $8 million in the CBD zone, the $8 million in the downtown zone. That's really the policy push of your tax increment refinance board saying, hey, we want to be involved in downtown revitalization. That's a great thing for them to move forward. Obviously, you know, the tax increment refinance board is your entity that is funding or funded the purchase of the Chapman building to renovate that into the British Flying Training School Museum. And they've got some other work that they're doing related to supporting downtown redevelopment. So all of that's then in that amendment number 2. If you flip over to the next page in your packet, you see Resolution 987. Resolution 987 basically pulls all of this together. I won't go through the whole thing, but the whereas section there gives you all of the history about who voted when on what part of the tax increment refinance district. And then it shows you attachment A down there under the now therefore section, basically saying that the City Council approves amendment number 2 to the tax increment refinance project plan and finance plan consistent with Exhibit A. Exhibit A is shown, if you flip a couple of more pages, you can see there's a summary there on agenda item page 30. This is where we show it by the type of development, and you can see the names there of the different pieces of infrastructure that are projected there. I'm not going to claim at all that we're going to end up having $158 million of projects we build under the TIF, but we did project $158 million originally as being the total amount of infrastructure we might construct, and we're leaving that number alone. We're just moving some of the projects here and there. So for example, we removed that project that's the Kings Creek project. We replaced that with the Bachelor Creek lift station and force mains because again, we now know more about where we stand from a construction standpoint. You can see downtown plan implementation, that's $16 million there, and then a contingency of $2.5 million. And then the last page for you to look at just brings it all together in terms of those zones again. That's what that final product will look like. So, and that's the amendment number 2 on agenda item page 31. So a lot of numbers to soak in there. I won't try to make you memorize all of them, but basically the Tax Increment Refinance Board of Directors is raising their hand and saying it's time to do an update to the project plan and finance plan. The project plan and finance plan, that don't confuse that with funding commitments. You just have to, under state law, have a battle plan that says, hey, this is generally how we think we'll spend our money if we have a lot of money come in. That's a state law requirement, so we wanted to get up to date here and give council a chance to also see this. None of that's effective, of course, until both the Commissioners Court votes on it. They did their action in May, and we're bringing it forward for your consideration. Not today, we're just workshopping it today, but we'll bring it back on a future agenda for you to vote on.
Does anybody have any questions? Housekeeping, Tim Royce, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem District 5 is now with us. Does anybody have any questions? I know it's a lot of numbers to review and to know what was planned, what was taken out, and what we added, right? And those are the three things that we all should be aware of. But
Yeah.
there's no commitment on any of it. It's just
Right, this is a planning document,
Right.
not a funding commitment document. And again, the biggest changes were to say, you know what, we shouldn't be listing Kings Creek wastewater treatment plant. That was funded through the Texas Water Development Board projects. We should really instead be funding the next big infrastructure project we need to build in that same area, which is the Bachelor Creek pump station and related force mains. So that shows up there. And again, we had several TxDOT projects funded, so we've removed funding from TxDOT projects, and we've put that instead on downtown projects.
okay. Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Sims?
Yes, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Grady Simpson, real quickly. Now this is a plan that came into origin. Origin is 2008, right?
Yes, sir.
And this was back to 100% by the TIF board. And what is the council going to do is just vote on the revisions that was made.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
That's all I need to know. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone else? Hearing none. Item number 6.3, we just did. Item number 6.4 is discuss Ants Fiber contract, map beginning on packet page 32 through 40. Mr. Sims?
I'm going to ask Becca to cover this. She's your IT director. This is actually a project that started some time ago. It's an exciting and good thing for the city that we're moving along to this point. And as she gives her presentation, I'm going to tell you one little thing that it sets us up to do next, which is one of the things I think is most exciting about the project. So Becca, take it away.
Becca, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to keep it simple. This contract is representative of an agreement that, again, started in September 2019. This is simply the written terms regarding both sides and what each will be providing and then to protect both parties. The fiber optic service agreement between the city and Ants Technology explains in detail the service and support provided regarding the installation and maintenance of a fiber network. A fiber network provides faster, more reliable internet than DSL and cable by using fiber optic cables instead of copper wires. Copper wires are susceptible to the elements and can distort voltage signals, causing major service disruptions. A 10 gig circuit has been installed at City Hall and will eventually run to downtown, the library, and other city facilities, offering staff the fastest internet speeds and guaranteed reliability. The total cost for installation is $16,000, which was broken into $1,000 a month beginning September 2019, and the final payment on that will be in December 2020. Internet access, fiber internet access will be billed at $5,000 a month for an initial 6-year term, at which end either party can choose to terminate or re-sign that contract. And during that time, Ants will provide service and support for the fiber circuit and all associated equipment, such as radios, cables, etc. Repair services that are the responsibility of the customer, that's the city, as well as help desk support that's not covered in the contract will be billed at $85 an hour, which is what we pay now. So they're not charging an exorbitant amount for the new circuit and the associated support and repair. And that amount will stay the same whether a service call takes place during regular business hours or in the case of an emergency. The city will be given a credit for each new customer that is added to this circuit. for 8% of the new customer's monthly bill. And if the customer is no longer receiving service from Ants, then that 8% credit will be removed. The city, having a top quality service such as fiber network is a huge draw for businesses looking to open or relocate, especially now with a lot of services being moved online. And this fiber network option downtown will benefit both the city as well as new businesses that are moving into town, because we'll be able to offer them, or Ants will be able to offer them that service as a draw. Those businesses will have access to the fastest, most reliable network to grow and succeed here in Terrell. And again, we get the credit, so for each business we add, we get an 8% credit. And then Ants will provide us a monthly progress report that tells any customers that have been added or removed, as well as their contact information, so we'll know who we're looking at, and what's been added, how much we can expect in discounts, and hopefully a lot. There's also a service level agreement attached to this contract, and that basically defines the level of service that's included in the contract. It doesn't add anything or take away anything. It just says that we each have a commitment to this project and that we've signed a contract, and we're gonna do our part.
Okay. So real quick, so this is just for city?
Right now,
For the
because
city.
the installation is not complete,
Right.
but eventually it will be, other companies and businesses here will have access to the fiber network as well.
The fiber exists currently?
Here
Or
at
is-
City Hall, and it is being, they're working on getting it mapped out and then moved.
All right,
Because
so-
you have to run it from pole to pole or underground. And so it is gonna expand throughout the city, but right now it's at the starting point, which
So-
is City Hall.
So it'll be available to business. How about residentials? Will they be able to tie into the system at all?
I would assume so,
Residents?
but we didn't speak specifically about residential, but
Yeah, I can
That's a
tell you
good
that's,
question.
I spoke with Mr. Darst about it. There's about 250 houses that will have immediate access to this as we're getting this geared up. So those houses will have very quick access to it as we get this thing installed. And then, I don't want to get too complicated about the whole thing, but if you look at the map that's here and you see where that line is.
The blue line?
Right. Well, there's a blue line and there's an orange line.
Okay.
And the idea here is the very first thing that we needed for First John and now Becca to work on was to make sure that the library had really good, reliable access. And we wanted to do that not by pinging a microwave from City Hall over to the library. We wanted to do that with fiber. And we wanted to also get that to the Smart Start building. So all of that desire, that base need that we had to get Becca's library directly fed was the instigating event to start getting this negotiation underway way back when. The thing this allows us to do then is to also say, okay, what can we build off of this? So step one of building off of this, as you're asking, is, well, aren't there going to be some residential customers so close that they can benefit? The answer is yes. And then won't there be some commercial businesses so close they can benefit? The answer is yes. Then the other thing it allows us to do when this work is done is we'll work with that same provider to see if we can run south down Rockwall, maybe run a little bit north up Rockwall, and get a little bit more of our residential community, both a little in both directions along Rockwall, some additional people served with this fiber. The more people who get served with the fiber, the better it is for the city, because we get that. Think of that 8% as a sales tax, right? We're using a sales tax concept there. That's where that number came from. And as more people get into it, that surcharge will buy down our costs
Right.
associated with this project.
Well-
And a 10 gig circuit is huge.
Is it?
So you can have a tremendous amount of people. The city alone would not use that, we wouldn't be able to use that much. So the more people we can get on there, the better, and everybody will have reliable, fast service.
Well, what I'm thinking is, we have partners with our economic development group. We also have the school district who might benefit if we could get them access to their campuses, right?
They
With
may.
this, I think it's a good thing. I'm glad that we're moving forward with it. I just would like to see more availability throughout the city.
Oh, yeah, and I think this falls under the heading of faster, please, right?
Yes. Okay, thank you, Becca. Well, does anybody have any questions?
Becca, I'm pulling up the map of the agenda, online version. So the blue line is what's being installed on the map.
Yes, that's correct. That's the plan, yes.
So then what is the brown?
Yeah, I wouldn't overdo the difference between the blue and the orange. They're really just there because they're they're just different steps of the installation. The,
They're both gonna be the same, but I think the orange is the one that we're kind of starting with, that's gonna be the library and the Smart Start. Blue.
the blue is the base network. It has to come from somewhere. So it's coming from Ant's home office. So we're not being charged for the full installation from Ant's home office to get over here. But he's shown that on the map anyway because it is an important component of the project.
So they'll be doing some digging, and if the contract is, what is the timeframe for when the contract is executed? And when they'll be doing it?
It started in September 2019, and it is continuing as we have access to it now. The city does, and then it just continues for the next until 6 years.
So then they're still continuing to add to the.
Yes, what it is,
Line.
they had to get a bond to run the fiber lines. There's more to it than just going out and digging a hole and laying lines. I'm learning lots about this too, by the way. But they have to get permission. You have to talk to AT&T and Encore, whoever owns poles, because I think a lot of this is going to be run from pole to pole, and then some of it will be underground. But there's a lot of steps to go through to get that going, and so we're just at the beginning phase of this project. And the lines are representative of the overall, this is where we're wanting to go, but we haven't gotten there just yet. Because as I said, it started in 2019, so we're just now really getting going.
There's gonna be demand for a lot of business that want to get on this.
Right.
Absolutely, yes.
We had to resort to a secondary source for it as well, and we're sitting right next door to the Southwestern Bell there, we couldn't even get it from there.
Right.
It's true. It will be a great asset to the community.
Okay. Any further questions of Becca? No, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 6.5, discuss budget adoption schedule. Mr. Sims?
Okay, so Mayor and Council, I'm going to talk about 6.5 and 6.6 together. If you open up your binder here, we really only put 6.6 there as kind of a caution in case we found anything else we had to vote on in Senate Bill 2. I think we're clear on that, so that's a good thing. Basically, I'll just walk you through 6.5 here. We did do our, this is kind of a good kind of reminder about how much work really goes into putting the budget together. We were doing some 3-year workshops about the budget in sort of the March and February timeframe. We did a very lengthy budget workshop in June, really in 3 different days, one on the 16th and then all day on the 25th and the 26th. We really only got our certified values from Kaufman County Appraisal District in July. We got all of our website material put together. We had a really good conversation with council, both on the 4th and the 11th. That 11th allowed us to put our ad in the Terrell Tribune. I want to thank the Tribune for not only taking our money for the ad, but they were also kind enough to put a news story out there that I think gave a better explanation to voters about what was really going on. So that's this most recent Saturday newspaper. Again, today, where we don't have any action related to the budget, but when you get to the 25th, and this is really what I want to highlight, on the 25th, you've got your public hearing on the tax rate. You've got first reading on the tax rate ordinance and adoption of the tax rate ordinance. So that's how fast all of this goes. Next week, you'll be voting on your tax rate, and again, that's that unchanged 7642. So no change to the tax rate this year, same tax rate you had in the past, and that's a tax rate calibrated within the requirements of Senate Bill 2. And based on Senate Bill 2, it doesn't require there are no petition opportunities, and it is not something that would need to go on the ballot. And again, you'll have another opportunity next week to review your final budget. I've shown you a PowerPoint presentation a couple of times since early August with updates that we were trying to get done, and you'll see all of that wrapped up in budget format on the 25th. You'll also do your public hearing related to your water and your wastewater rates, and do first reading on your water, wastewater, and stormwater rates ordinance. So a lot going on next week, and again, unchanged recommendations there. We've talked about water being a 2% increase, wastewater being a 4% increase, stormwater being a $1 increase. All of that will be coming forward, as well as that trash pickup increase of $2. You'll see all of those ordinances coming forward to you very quickly. And again, we're confident that that puts us in good financial standing with our budget. Your budget, you don't do a public hearing on it until you've already voted on your tax rate ordinance. That's an important part of Senate Bill 2. But you do that public hearing on the budget on September the 1st. So you'll see a revised budget on your 25th packet, and then that turns into something to vote on September the 1st. So lots going on there related to budget, and I just wanted to put that schedule back in front of you. We've talked about it several times, but it's always good to remind yourself what the schedule is. Any comments, or happy to answer any questions about that?
So, remind me again on the $2 trash, that's going for what now?
Well, we just put that back into the general fund budget. We believe that was very necessary to help us shore up some of the staff that goes out and does cleanup along the streets. So we do. This is partly the bulk pickup, and this is the issue of, okay, I have illegal dumping problems, flat out. And these are my staff members who we would send out to do pickup on illegal dumping. And that's just the sad fact of the matter. You gotta do some work to do the crisp and clean pickup.
I remember, but the service is going to stay the same.
Yes.
Okay.
The actual service package is something that Glenn is working very hard on. We've got your direction from the budget retreat about which of the options y'all picked, and then you'll see Glenn here in just a matter of weeks coming forward with his contract work. He and I talked about it just this week.
Okay. Anyone else? Does anybody else have any comments, questions? Nope. Wonderful. So at this time, do we have any executive session? We do have an executive session, so we're going to adjourn into executive session in compliance with Section 551 of the Texas Government Code to discuss the following. Section 551.072, deliberations regarding real property, and Section 551.087, deliberations regarding economic development negotiations. We are now in executive session. So we need just the council.